all three here are human rights abusers. Fact, Action 61 took Salford Town Hall down to arrest them for forced adoption. Look at their faces so you'll never forget what these dirty bastards have been up to. Those in so-called power have a big secret. Oh yes. Paying tax is optional. Getting a licence is optional. Registering a vehicle is optional. Paying a fine is optional. Attending a court is optional. Registering your children is optional. You just pass title for a piece of paper to own your children. Wake up. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. Who are you? Let us use one name here. Mark Quayle. Mark Quayle. Mark Quayle. Mark Quayle. Mark Quayle. Which one is real? Remember that a corporate entity does not exist in the real world. It is a con, a scam. Now you are all wondering, why is this? Well, my friends, if you read the law, real law that is, Bill of Rights, Bills of Exchange, then you would know this is all true. The biggest genocide in human history didn't occur in Nazi Germany, but on American soil. 100 million Native Americans were slaughtered and lost their homeland. Historical fact. Most of the people doing the slaughtering were Christians. Sorry if you can handle the truth, or can't handle the truth. I'm talking to custodials. What's a custodian? It's the janitor you knew in school, the harmless, quiet man or woman who faithfully swept the floors, could be around every corner and had access to the whole building, including your locker. Now let's look at what your government birth certificate custodian's job is. It is to do the same thing, but he's not doing any custodial considerations for you. This is key. Is what they call you, in their own words, beneficiary. You're supposed to have benefits, guardians, rights and protections. What's the problem here? We don't have any. Simple contract order over. Void by custodian themselves. Oh, and I missed the biggest point. A custodian, janitor, is not supposed to make money off you or traffic you. That is your money for your benefit. So simply, I'll say it again, you shot your own foot. The system. Cortisone injections from hip and knee pain lead to more complications than previously thought, research has found. The anti-inflammatory jabs are used by athletes to mask pain and to treat symptoms of osteoarthritis. But the study by Boston University School of Medicine found that the treatment could speed up joint disintegration. The forced patient to have total knee and hip replacements. Research found 10% of their patients given injections in the hips in 2018 suffered complications, along with 4% of those who had the jabs in the knees. These can include stress fractures, progressive osteoarthritis, or even the collapse of joints. Study leader Dr. Ali Guramazi of Boston University School of Medicine in the US said, "We've been telling patients that even if these injections don't relieve your pain, they're not going to hurt you. But now we suspect that this is not necessarily the case. We are now seeing these injections can be very harmful to the joints with serious complications." Hundreds of animals dropped dead in China after being poisoned by virus disinfectant. And that's what they're planning to do to us as well. What's the point of saving millions of people from a virus that causes severe pneumonia just to poison them instead? That appears to be what the Chinese Communist Party is doing across the country. Over the last month, videos of people in full hazmat suits with giant tanks of chemicals strapped on their backs, walking around public areas and spraying giant clouds of chemicals have become common. What's inside the tank? Well, nobody's really sure, but CNBC Eunice Yoon noted recently that everywhere she goes in Beijing, she smells bleach and disinfectant. The only thing is, the virus has still managed to spread via many other methods, including potentially through sewer systems, as researchers revealed on Saturday that they had isolated a strain of the virus from an infected patient's urine, and in the meantime, the government is exposing the public to massive quantities of potentially dangerous chemicals. But that's all beside the point, really. The Pilobara has repeatedly prioritised stability and protecting President Xi's precious growth targets over the public welfare. It's one reason why Dr. Lai Weiliang has become a martyr in this struggle against the virus. Patience is free. You can be fined 100 for not giving way at a zebra crossing, even if a pedestrian has passed your car. More attempts to stop us travelling. If the pedestrian has passed your lane of traffic, you must still wait for them to cross the entire road. That's not true at all, but they're trying to make up another way to fine you. Driving through a zebra crossing when a pedestrian is still on the road could land you with a hefty fine and points on your licence. And even if the pedestrian has passed your car and crossed to the other side of the road, you could still be in trouble with authorities. Zebra crossing areas, essential safety features commonly used on popular routes to schools, shopping centres and parks. But when drivers fail to give way to pedestrians, it can have deadly consequences. Under the Road Traffic Act 1984, passing through the pedestrian crossing without giving way to those trying to cross can land you a fine of £100 and 3 points on your licence. The Highway Code states that you must look out for pedestrians waiting to cross and give way when a pedestrian has moved onto the crossing. So if pedestrians have stepped onto the road, it's your responsibility as a driver to stop and allow them to reach the other side safely. And even if the pedestrian has passed your lane of traffic, you must still wait for them to cross the entire road, not just out of your driving lane. At least 69 suicides linked to DWP's handling of benefit claims. Watchdog warns true numbers of cases where claimants took own lives as a result of DWP actions could be far higher. These 3 cases of suicide linked to DWP handling of benefits. Have you been affected by changes to disability welfare payments? Families and campaigners have demanded a public inquiry after a government watchdog found that at least 69 suicides could have been linked to a problem with benefit claim over the last 6 years. Amid anger from the loved ones of some of those who took their lives in circumstances where difficulties with the Department of Work and Pensions played a role, the National Audit Office report said that the true number of deaths linked to claims could be far higher. And it said that until recently, the DWP had failed to actively seek information from coroner or families or investigate all of the cases that were reported to it. More ways to kill us all. Only 4 of Glasgow's 71 Muslim refugee child rapists have gone to prison. After a decade of investigation, no justice for the victims. Daniel Greenfeld, a Shilman journalist, fellow at the Freedom Centre, is an investigative journalist and writer focusing on the radical left and Islamic terrorism. By the summer of last year, Glasgow had the highest number of household refugees in the UK, with almost 10% of the asylum seekers setting up shop in the Scottish city. The overflow of refugees, many of them from Pakistan, Iraq and Afghanistan, have brought in government money, but also violence and crime. Refugees who request for asylum are rejected, refuse to leave and remain in Glasgow. Glasgow has been eager to cash in on asylum seekers and is, in the last 2 decades, was fundamentally transformed by the tide of migrants filling up its neighbourhoods as Pakistanis became the largest minority group in Scotland. 42% of the country's Muslim population took up residence in Glasgow. By the 2011 census, a fifth of Glasgow's population was non-Scottish. In Pollokshields, a quarter of the population is Pakistani. Pollokshields is also where Chris Donald, a 15-year-old Scottish teenage boy, was kidnapped in the spring of 2004, stabbed all over his body and then set on fire by a Pakistani gang. His violent death was a result of political correctness that has gripped the police in Scotland. Mike Liddell, a senior police officer, warned crime within Glasgow's Asian community has been allowed to grow unfettered for years. Why? Because the police have been afraid to fight it in case they are accused of racism. Ayub Khan, a member of the multi-faith coalition group in Pollokshields, agreed people know that the police are too scared to come into the area and be accused of racism. That was 15 years ago. Last year, Mohammed Maqsood had his appeal thrown out. Maqsood had been accused of the Chris Donald murder but had remained free until he raped an 18-year-old girl who got into what she thought was a taxi in Glasgow, but she was brutalised and left half naked in the street. Mohammed then generously dumped her clothes in the charity bin to hide the evidence. The assault was one of many that involved taxis and Glasgow's growing Muslim community. The taboo topic has been the subject of multiple police investigations after reports began to circulate in the press. They're doing this deliberately because they want us angry at the Muslims rather than the government that's causing the problem. Grooming Gang. Review kept secret as Home Office claims releasing findings not in public interest. Utter bullshit and lies. Freedom of information requests refused to, so ministers have safe space to discuss policy. In other words, how can we keep letting them get away with it? The government is refusing to release official research on the characteristics of grooming gangs, claiming it's not in the public interest. It's absolutely in the public interest, but they don't want us to know about it. That's what they really mean. Survivors accused ministers of making empty promises, while a man who prosecuted abusers in Rochdale called for the Home Office to show some courage and publish its findings. It comes after the Independent revealed that almost 19,000 suspected child sexual exploitation victims were identified by local authorities in just 1 year, sparking renewed calls for prevention efforts. Sajid Javid promised the review as Home Secretary in July 2018, pledging that there would be no no-go areas of inquiry. I will not let cultural or political sensitivities get in the way of understanding the problem and doing something about it, he said at the time. And of course, he did absolutely nothing. But don't forget, though, he's a banker. Puppy shows miraculous recovery after hunter shot Heartless twice with arrows. Dogs are known to be very loyal companions in the United States of America, and they are also considered to protect homes and families. On the other hand, many other places in the world don't consider it as we do. China is one of these places, as it is truly a food for them, and there is an annual festival called Yulin Dog Meat Festival. It is very controversial dog meat festival where more than 10,000 dogs are slaughtered every year. Dog meat dealers are also responsible for gathering as many dogs as possible. There's the picture, 2 arrows through the dog. Bastards. Nowadays, a heartless meat dealer in China has started to search for dogs with arrows on the street. The dog was shot twice but managed to stand. Luckily, Kwai Wei, a dog lover, saw this sick attack and saved the poor puppy. Child Rape Grooming Gang consisting of 55 asylum seekers kept secret by Scottish police for 3 years. See, this is their plan to cause so much disruption, and they're letting it happen deliberately. A grooming gang was kept secret by Scottish police despite victimising at least 44 young girls. Glasgow police shut down a child rape gang consisting of 55 members, which were all either asylum seekers or nationalised asylum seekers, but the police did not reveal the existence of this group or the operation to take this group down to the public. The police operation took place in 2016. However, this operation is only becoming public knowledge 3 years later, according to the Scottish Sun, which revealed a briefing document from police in Scotland that reveals the report linked to the report conducted by Detective Inspector Sarah Taylor from the National Child Abuse Investigation Unit found that 55 suspects, 46 identified Kurdish, Afghan, Egyptian, Algerian, Moroccan, Turkish, Pakistan and Iraqi. All are either asylum seekers or nationalised asylum seekers. 22 remain within Greater Glasgow area, 8 out with Glasgow area, 14 deported, 1 currently awaiting deportation and 1 currently within prison. The report also provided details of the scale at which the grooming gang operated, with 1 victim believed to have been abused and raped by 28 different members of the same gang, and another girl being linked to 23 men within the gang. As to why the investigation into the grooming gang was hidden from the public is unknown. We know exactly why. Because they didn't want us to know what was going on. Because everyone would be up in arms and demanding they all go. But they don't want that. They want to continue with this abuse of all of us. Why is Julian Assange in prison while a suspected rapist and paedophile lives at Buckingham Palace as a free man? It says something about our justice system that Julian Assange is under lock and key in Belmarsh prison for services to journalism and revealing the truth about US war crimes, whilst Andrew Windsor is given an interview in the posh surroundings of Buckingham Palace. This was an exercise in damage limitation, though it is clear that such is Andrew Windsor's shiftiness that he has raised more questions than answers. He said he let the side down, meaning the royal family. Andrew Windsor didn't mention letting down the hundreds of young girls that his friend Jeffrey Epstein was trafficking. Apparently Randy Andy didn't notice anything was amiss during his many visits to Epstein's Florida mansion and during his stay at Epstein's New York pad. He didn't deny staying at Epstein's island either. If you believe his version of what happened, you would believe anything. In December 2010, Andrew went to stay at Epstein's New York home in order to tell him he couldn't see him again. Not only that, but he went for a leisurely walk in Central Park with him. It is bullshit. If, in fact, the only purpose of the visit was to cut off relations, then a royal aide would have phoned Epstein. Clearly, Andrew felt indebted to the monster. Not only that, but he stayed for 4 days. Oh yeah, see ya, I no longer want to be your friends, but while I'm here, I'll just rape a few more girls. Can you provide them? And then I'll pretend that we're not going to be friends. Okay, yeah, great. Because it was convenient, apparently. This is from someone who has range of hotels to stay in, for whom money is no barrier, and who can stay at the British ambassador's residence. The obvious conclusion is that he stayed for the reasons related to the child sex allegations for which Epstein was convicted and facing further proceedings. Allegations of sleeping with what were girls trafficked as sex slaves is rape. Andrew cast doubt on the famous photograph with a 17-year-old Virginia Roberts, suggesting that it is a photoshopped, that his fingers didn't fit, but he doesn't categorically state that it is a forgery. Why? Because the negative might yet turn up. He is careful not to say anything which might prove a lie in the future. Nothing Virginia Roberts has said about having slept with him 3 times or knowing him has proven to be false. Andrew admits to a friendship with Ghislaine Maxwell, who produced the girls, or procured the girls, for Epstein. That in itself is damning enough. By his own admission, he gave a party during his 2010 stay at Epstein's house for his host. He also invited Epstein to a shooting party as opposed to a birthday party at Sandringham. Clearly, it was close relationship. The wonder is that the bunch of parasites, otherwise known as the royal family, is able to do all this courtesy on a taxpayer if there were a group of people who should stand on their own 2 feet, it's the royals. They should all be in jail, the lot of them. They're nothing but paedophile, satanic scum of the planet. Whether that's flat or round. Assange's persecution has exposed media depravity the world over. This is the speech I gave at a demonstration last night in Melbourne for Julian Assange, whose extradition trial begins February 24th. Julian Assange started a leak outlet on the premise that corrupt and unaccountable power is a problem in the world, and that problem can be fought with the light of truth. Corrupt and unaccountable power responded by detaining, silencing and smearing him. His persecution has proved his own thesis about the world's absolutely correct. Power is the ability to control what happens. Absolute power is controlling what people think about what happens. Humans are story-orientated creatures, so if you can control the stories that the humans are telling each other about what's going on, you can control those humans. And they do that a lot, don't they? Pregnant secretary of Pope Francis found dead in her Rome apartment. Miriam Wulu, a 34-year-old Eritrean origin, was 7 months pregnant when her body was discovered. She had worked at Pope Francis' home and a priest's guest house called Santa Marta for years. The Italian press reports she worked as a kind of gatekeeper for the pontiff, as well as the bishops and cardinals who stay there. The Pope opted to live at the Santa Marta guest house after his appointment in 2013, rejecting the Grand Papal apartment because he found them too sumptuous and he feared isolation. Well, you can put 2 and 2 together and figure out what really went off there, can't you? Epstein and I have everyone on videotape, Ghislaine Maxwell alleged to have confided. Socialite with links to royal family reveals she has spoken to FBI about friendship with Jeffrey Epstein and Mrs. Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell told a former acquaintance that she had Jeffrey Epstein had everything on videotape, it has been claimed. Well, of course it would be, so they can blackmail them. Christina Oxenberg, a socialite and distant relative of the royals, said Ms. Maxwell also once told her that Epstein had purchased his own helicopter because commercial pilots were eyes and ears they did not need. She revealed she had spoken to the FBI about what she had been told. Miss Oxenberg, 57, first met Maxwell in the early 1990s and said she would never forget a conversation the pair once had in Maxwell's home. We were alone, she said. She said many things, all creepy, unorthodox, strange. I could not believe whatever she was saying was real. Stuff like Jeffrey and I have everyone on videotape. And that's why Andrew's being careful about what he says, because he's worried the videos will come out of what he's been up to, the dirty, filthy, paedophile bastard. Video. UK boxing champ Tyson Fury warns of Zionist Jewish brainwashing. Links in description if you want to see see the video. Tyson Fury anti-Semitic rant. Oh, of course it's anti-Semitic because you're talking about the Zionists, not the Jews as such, because they're just being used just like everyone else is. They're used as cover for the Zionists. The campaign against anti-Semitism, a British watchdog group, said it is submitting a complaint to the British Boxing Board of Control against Fury over the video. Tyson Fury, a British boxer who is one of the world's top athletes is in his category, was filmed warning viewers not to be brainwashed by Zionist Jews who, he said, own all banks and media. I absolutely agree with that. The campaign against anti-Semitism, which needs to be kicked out of the country because that's just them using that every time that any truth comes out about them. A British watchdog group said it is submitting a complaint to the British Boxing Board of Control against Fury over the video which surfaced on YouTube Friday. Everyone, just do what you can. Listen to the government, follow everybody like sheep, be brainwashed by all the Zionist Jewish people who own all the banks, all the papers and all the TV stations, be brainwashed by them all, said Fury, a practicing Catholic who is scheduled in July to try and win back his International Boxing Federation title World champion category heavyweight. He lost in the last year due to technicality after holding it in 10 days. So this must be, I don't know what the date is on this, but it must, obvious, because obviously he's just won it again. Tyson Fury's statement about Jewish people are offensive and racist. No, they're not. It's simply telling the truth. Jonathan Sacredote, Director of Communications at the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, said in a statement, just as anti-Semitism is being stamped out from football, the same should apply to boxing. He should be barred from boxing and referred to the British Boxing Board of Control. There's a clear cell phone cancer link, but FDA is downplaying it. So the FDA is responsible for anyone that gets cancer from the cell phone. That's who you sue. A recent study by the National Toxicology Programme, National Institute of Health, shows clear evidence of a causal link between cancer and exposure to wireless cell phone signals. Results from the 30 million NTP studies demonstrated that cell phone radiation caused Schwann cell cancer on the heart and brain, gliomas in rats, as well as DNA damage in the brain. In NIH's news release, NTP senior scientist John Booker said, "We believe that the link between radio frequency radiation and tumours in male rats is real, and the external experts agreed. But amazingly, the FDA says it disagrees with the carefully conducted peer-reviewed study findings of clear evidence of carcinogenicity." The FDA is there to make sure that you get your doses of poison. That's what the FDA does. According to Jeffrey Shuren, Director of FDA Centre for Devices and Radiological Health, these findings should not be applied to human cell phone usage, adding that we believe the existing safety limits for cell phones remain acceptable for protecting the public health. They want you all to have cancer. That's what that means. While expressing this opinion, Dr. Shuren neglects to note that the International Agency for Research on Cancer, a part of the World Health Organization, well, they're not no good, are they? Classified radio frequency radiation for wireless devices as a possible human carcinogen, based largely on findings of increased risk of gliomas and Schwann cell tumours in the brain near the ear in humans after long-term use of cell phones. Thus, the same tumour types are elevated in both animals and humans exposed to cell phone radiation. The FDA's position is quite unusual because it was this agency that nominated cell phone radiation emitted from wireless communication devices to the NTP for toxicity and carcinogenicity studies in experimental animals so as to provide the basis to assess the risk of human health. But they're there to try and make sure we die. That's their job. Trust. It's the secret trust, the law. Roman Canon Law 3.3, Rights, Suspension and Corruption. Article 100, Seska v. Trust. And we're particularly looking at 2047 here. The fourth one down. In 1931, the Roman cult, and it is a Roman death cult, also known as the Vatican, created the Bank of International Settlements for the control of claimed property of associated private central banks around the world upon the deliberate bankruptcy of most countries. Private central banks were installed as administrators, and the global Seska Foreign Cities Trust system was implemented from 1933 onwards. There you go. It's the Vatican that's in charge of everything. Metro. Gypsy King of the world. Coronavirus race assault. Sun. Viva Las Vegas. Joy as Fury beats Wilder. Brits drink US city dry. 4 more UK bug victims. The Guardian. On God, Wells and Harvey Weinstein. Lone Gufford. Yeah. Time running out to contain coronavirus, experts warn. Let's ramp up the fear and terrify everybody we can, because we can keep them under control that way. Italy, South Korea and Iran take strict measures as UK cases rise to 13. So we've got 13 flu-like symptoms. Wow, terrible, eh? Sanders edges closer to contest with Trump. 11,000 homes planned for flood danger areas. See that if they're deliberately building houses in flood areas because they want to cause as much misery as they can. That's the government for you. Telegraph. Coronavirus pandemic alert as UK and Italy hit. 4 new cases in Britain and Lombardy towns in lockdown after major outbreak. Furious MI5 bosses deny Patel relations have soured. Johnson to kickstart trade talks with US. Fresh floods will leave land soaking for weeks. Alison Pearson on the most eagerly awaited literary launch of the decade. Saunders stuns rivals with big win in Nevada. Tech giants warning over duty of care move. I. Fury and the Glory. Mad about Malta. MI5 dragged into Home Office civil war. Hand over the washing up. Parenting tips for a psychologist and mum of 5. Health chief's pension plea. Sunak urged to fix NHS tax crisis. Dead funny. Comic looks on the bright side of bereavement. Ian Birrell, nothing caring about Patel's point system. 4 new coronavirus cases among cruise ship evacuees. Fury as Diamond Princess passengers test positive after returning for quarantine in Britain. 50,000 in lockdown in Italian hotspots as 152 diagnosed in Europe's worst outbreak. Iran and South Korea battling to control surge in numbers infected. So this is all bullshit fear, doom and gloom stuff when colloidal silver will wipe it out. Oregon oil will wipe it out. There's loads of things that will wipe it out, but they want us in fear so they can keep control of us. That's the plan here. That's always been the plan. Keep them in fear, you'll keep them under control. Express. On top of the world, the woman who saved King Tyson. 70 billion budget boost in North. NHS chief announces radical low-calorie diet programme to combat obesity crisis. Diabetes alert as 2 million more at risk. And the parasites. One is not amused, Queen upset and sad over Harry and Meghan row. Daily fail. Waiting time at 13-year-old high. 4.4 million patients in need of operations. NHS unveils radical plan to tackle crisis. Train nurses to do surgery. Oh my gosh. Parasite. Queen dignity at storm over Harry and Meghan rages. The Times. Daily portion of fruit and veg linked to reduced stroke risk. Patel livid after claiming she has lost trust of MI5. Home Secretary demands inquiry into leak. Defence boss given 300,000 tax-free payout. Tax-free. Yeah, we're supposed to pay tax. Well, we're not, but we do, because it's voluntary, don't forget. And he gets it tax-free. Just let that sink in. Mirror. 200 million belter. Mirror investigation revealed the grim conditions US chickens are reared in before they are washed in chlorine as a Tory minister refuses to rule out such meat being sold in the UK soon. Horrifying. The government are poisoning us every way they possibly can. Utter waste of paper. Tyson, Gum and Have a Go AJ. World Champs Challenge page there. So, Love Isle tribute to Caroline. Lucy Joe tug of love. Corey Allen in bust up with X. FT. Italy locks down 10 towns as fears rise for global coronavirus spread. Biggest outbreak outside Asia. Iraq and Turkey close borders. Economic worry grows. Now, if you recall, Prince Philip said when he dies he'd like to come back as a virus that would wipe out humanity. Well, he's not dead yet, but this is a virus they've planned to try and wipe us all out. That's what this is all about. Buyout firm CVC tackles rugby with 300 million move for stake in Six Nations. Stark difference beside as Brexit trade talks near. A highly dangerous virus called weekly overload recreational killer work is currently going around. If you come in contact with this work virus, you should immediately go to the nearest biological anxiety relief bar centre to take antidotes known as work isolating neutralizing extract, wine, radioactive unwork medicine, rum, bothersome employer elimination rebooter, beer, or vaccine official depression killer antigen, vodka. Please repost to raise awareness.